I would like to start this out by saying Space Marine 2, unlike most games, actually gives you a pretty comprehensive tutorial reviewing and explaining all of the mechanics offered to you. However, the only issue in that would be in an effort to give you more flexibility in playstyles, they didn't get very specific. Today is going to be all about teaching you how to not be dead, and hopefully how to strike down enemies in the process. If you haven't played the game yet, perfectly fine, this will be broadly applicable to you as well. We're going to go over the basics in every match, and then dip a little into each class. In a different video, I'm going to dive heavily into class specifics, but I need to spend more time with them to do that first, primarily because they look a little dull. I've only heavily invested into the sniper, and I refuse to show things off to you that aren't completely dripped out. I'll say this before I forget. If you've learned any tricks that work because you've had early access, feel free to comment them. I'm always down for somebody else helping out the little guys if I seem to have missed something. I don't have all the answers here, but I got a fair bit of them. First things first, as always with a third-person game, how do you use third-person to your advantage? You do not need to stand out in the open to see enemies anymore. It's not Apex or whatever. You have the entire screen for that, and you can also see exactly how big your character is. So here's what we're going to do with this information. You're going to find a rock, a wall, a monastery, literally anything. And you're going to stand behind that bitch. Keep in mind, some cover will break under heavy fire. If it is a building, it's probably staying up, or if it's a mission objective. So ideally, take cover behind those. Now, part 2. You aren't getting shot in the head anymore. Go ahead and observe your surroundings. I want you to think through who is getting the business end of your bolter before you charge around that corner and just eat shit. This is one half of the most valuable information that I can give you, and it will apply to every single third-person game. Remember, the more you practice this, the better you will get at it. If using cover was new to you, you're gonna have to break a few bad habits that you've built up over the years. The other half of the most beneficial lesson I can impart onto you would be learning how your enemies work. Much like onions, these things have layers. There's more than just basic evasion. You need to learn weak points, attack patterns, and the enemy's abilities. If you want to get into the minutia of it, you can go ahead and figure out how many bullets from a particular weapon it takes to kill an enemy, but that's a little too nitty-gritty for today. Some of you are already doing this. You do it all the time, and you've internalized it. But I want you to dredge that up and put some conscious effort into it. As good as blue means parry and orange means dodge is, there are follow-up attacks that you can predict. If you've got some health to spare for mistakes and a lone enemy, go ahead and make it a training dummy. Bully that little dipshit until you know the full checklist of all their attacks. I can't speak for everyone's learning ability, but most can start breaking ankles pretty fast after they've started this. If one particular enemy is always a pain in the ass to you, spend some good quality bonding time with them. You won't figure out how to beat them with avoidance. That's how not to die. Now it's time we address how to stay alive. Close quarters combat is your lifeline, which feels weird to say, but just bear with me here. Anytime you hit an execution, any of those cinematic kill animations, you refill a bar of armor. That is the only sustainable way to reclaim your health pool apart from some very niche perks. You are not guaranteed to find stims in any match, and even if you do, they don't refill much health. It is a very good practice to treat your armor as if it were your health pool. That way, if you do occasionally find stims, they become an insurance policy. We want to treat them as enhancement, not a reliance. Back to gaining the armor. Each class should go about executions slightly differently because everyone should range themselves a little differently, but these rules will be broadly applicable. Do not let yourself be surrounded. Self-explanatory. Kill the large units first. Getting hit sucks. Getting hit by bigger things sucks more. Use large sweeping attacks against the small enemies. The gun execution will constantly present itself when doing this, giving you a constant refill of shields for these little bastards who keep chipping your health away. Always keep an eye out for melee execution possibilities. You become invulnerable when performing them and they refill a bar of armor. There is no harm in doing it. I don't know how to do a segue, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jam this in here like a shiv into some poor guy's sternum. Spend your time investigating areas because there is loot all over the place. I know some of you don't read instructions and took forever figuring out how to upgrade guns. If that's still you, the currency to upgrade guns is found by killing mini-bosses and interacting with the little floating robot guys scattered around the map. There will only be one per map so far. Point being, look in the side rooms, break the stacked up crates, take a moment or two and look around. It will be greatly beneficial to you. Actually, I should probably cover mission rewards and leveling right now too. The only way you're getting real dosh is if you're completing operations, no half measures. But what about PvP, some of you may say? Fucking don't worry about PvP right now. It's kind of a soup sandwich if you're not picking very specific classes. When you finish a mission, you're going to get experience points thrown equally into two pots. One goes to the character, being sniper, bulwark, heavy, whatever. The other goes to every piece of equipment that you have. No division in points. If you have 935 experience, every gun and the character gets 935 apiece. When you level up, you are greenlit to buy upgrades and modifications. New perks and cosmetic items will open up for the character, and new perks and variants will open up for the weapons. We're gonna knock out the class portion now. It'll be pretty simple. I tell you the class, I tell you its job, and we call it a day. Tactical. You are the safe choice, the all-arounder. Your ability is the Auspex Scan. It's a radar bubble that will highlight and weaken enemies that touch it. There's honestly not a lot to unpack with this one. If you're indecisive about picking a class, this is where you should go. Assault. You need to play more aggressive than a honey badger in a tumble dryer. Your ability is the jump pack. It gives you the best movement out of anyone on your team. Your job is simple. Beat the shit out of everything. Your weapon's like shockwaves, so get in the center of the problem and make some. This class is fantastic for your local drywall puncher. Vanguard. You are a bloodthirsty little ballerina. Your ability is the grapple launcher, a cable that pulls you to a selected enemy. I would not hesitate in saying this is the class with the highest skill ceiling because of how you have to balance things. If the assault class is a hammer, this is a scalpel. Pirouetting through the enemy's guard and gouging into all those little parts that make something alive is your hallmark. This class appeals to those who like to fight inside of a phone booth. Bulwark. You like rocks, so you became one. Your ability is the Chapter Banner. It provides various bonuses to your team in a specific area. This is as close to a paladin as you can get. You are the shield wall, leading your team into the fires of battle and defending them constantly. The team fight will often end up with you as the anchor, so prepare yourself for some responsibility if you choose them. Also, prepare for a mechanics curveball if you're using the power sword, because the combat is a little bit abnormal. Sniper. You are the team's babysitter. Your ability is the camo cloak. It renders you invisible. Must I explain more for that? If someone is pinned down, you go handle it. If someone falls over, you go handle it. If someone needs another juice box, you go handle it. You sit in the way back, pinging bullets off of elite foreheads and letting others get the executions. This is not for the glory hound. It's for someone who doesn't mind cleaning up others' messes and knows their worth to a team. Heavy. You are grace. You are elegance. Nah, I'm just kidding. You're a big fucker. You're a big fucker with a gun the size of a small yet well-fed Rottweiler. Your ability is the Iron Halo, a forward projectable shield that will block incoming damage. The Heavy speaks in the language of little risk and high reward, much alike the Assault. The Heavy likes their kills delivered in the same way as their eggs, by the dozen. The only noticeable detraction is an absent melee weapon, but you still get some nice shockwave stomps. And finally, when you're settling down upon a class, I want you to check two things first. Take a look through the perk sections of the weapon and the character. After all, you don't want to work up towards a goal and find out it fucking sucks. I'll dig into that more sometime, but most of you don't even have the game yet, so we're not gonna get there. All I have left now is a friendly warning. Please, do not dive headfirst into the deep end of the pool if you do not know how to swim. Although I'm nearly positive this will fall on deaf ears, a man must try. There is a reason you are warned as a low level entering a high difficulty match. The warning is not so much a caution to you as it is a suggestion of courtesy for others. If you barge through the doors incredibly weak, it forces everyone else in the match to limp you along a half hour or longer. So please learn to tread water before belly flopping into the Pacific Ocean. If nobody else will thank you for your kindness, I will. Conversely, if someone joins and they have no clue what they're doing, don't be a dick. How they got there doesn't matter. What matters is they are with you now. They've already pissed themselves. Assist that motherfucker. If you've played and found other valuable information that isn't mentioned here, feel free to add on in the comments as I suggested at the beginning. I'm gonna have some proper class videos soon, but I gotta get the boys dripped out for it. Can't be looking like some Adeptus jabroni out here in these streets. Otherwise, that's all I had in store for today. As always, thank you very much for sticking around. Have a good night.